Yo, what up, everybody? You're watching New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. Give me a follow over on Twitter at _. In case I missed your question from this live mailbag, I'll answer it over there. Just send me a DM at _. First question in a super chat coming in from my guy ZXCV. $20. We appreciate you, man. Thank you for the support. It says, if you were a GM and had to cut 26 or 8 today for the 2023 roster, who are you picking, Marshy? If I had to choose one of those guys to come back, it would be Daniel Jones. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, Daniel Jones is anywhere from the 10th or 20th best quarterback in the NFL. You can argue, you can make a case for anything. So 10 to 20, that's where I think he falls in. I think it's easier to obviously Saquon Barkley is a better running back than Daniel Jones is a quarterback, but it's easier to find a great running back than I think it is to find a great quarterback. And for that reason alone, I would choose to stick with Daniel Jones, and I don't really want to allocate too many dollars on the salary cap to a running back. I would rather just draft one in the third round every year and keep kind of a revolving door at that spot. Putting me up against a tough spot right here, my man, but I'd go cut Saquon Barkley and I would keep Daniel Jones. Let me know which one you would choose. Pick one to keep. Type 26 for Saquon or 8 for Daniel Jones. Gilly with a $20 super chat. What up, Gilly? Says, give DJ and Saquon what they want and go heavy for interior offensive lineman and wide receiver and free agency or draft. What do you think? I 100% agree. I think you got to bring back Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, but I do have a number that I'm really not trying to go past. And I feel like Joe Schoen is the exact same way. I have a ceiling, and I don't want to pay Daniel Jones $45 million. I don't want to pay Saquon Barkley $16 million per year. If I can get them back on fair deals, I would absolutely do it. And I agree with you. You got to get better at offensive line, especially interior offensive line, and you got to get more playmakers on the outside. I think you also got to get better at corner and off-ball linebacker. I would like to draft an off-ball linebacker, and I would like to draft a receiver and a corner. If I'm going to pay a position, it would be interior offensive lineman, and I'd go after wide receiver. I'd rather draft a middle linebacker than pay one. I think kind of like running backs, you get their best ball at the front end of their career. Giants lover, love that. Hashtag Giants. Do you think the Giants will re-sign Jihad Ward? It's a good question. Ward was an instrumental piece to this defensive line, and I thought he brought just like a swag to this team coming over from the Ravens. He had played under Wink Martindale. That's where he played his best football, and he arguably had his best year in the National Football League this year with the Giants. Played in all 17 games. I think he started 11 of those games. He had 43 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 QB sacks, and he had 13 QB hits. I think he is the perfect kind of second wave of your D lineman. You got Leonard Williams, you got Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Azeez Ojulari. And if Jihad Ward is your 5th or 6th defensive lineman in a rotation, I think that's a really good piece. And I would love to bring him back. I just thought he was a leader. I thought he didn't obviously have the C on his chest for being a captain, but I thought he was huge for this Giants team. And I would absolutely love to bring Jihad Hottie Ward back. And if you're the same way, if you want the Giants to re-sign Jihad Ward, type his jersey number 55, in the comments section. Shout out to Hottie Kings. You know what I'm talking about. Type 55 down in the comment section. Devarshi says, are you a fan of Hendon Hooker because you are always looking to trade Daniel Jones? I'm not looking to trade Daniel Jones, and I am a fan of Hendon Hooker. Isn't that crazy how that works out? I love Hooker, but I am concerned a little bit with his torn ACL and his age entering the NFL draft. I want to bring Daniel Jones back, but I don't want to pay a tier 2 or tier 3 quarterback, whatever you have your tiers in order, tier 1 money. That's any form of life. I don't want to pay an expensive price for something I can get for lower value. I don't know if that makes sense to everybody else, but that's just how I feel. I love to get Hooker, but I'd rather bring Daniel Jones back. $32.5 million per year, 33.5, a little bit over the franchise tag. I think that is more than fair. Rob Jigga, can we draft a center instead of free agency? Absolutely, we could draft a center. I just think that the Giants, you got to spend money somewhere. And where are you going to spend it? You can let it burn a hole in your pocket, but you got to get this team better. Center, there's a couple good ones in the first and second round you could look at. But I think Ethan Posick I know I'm probably saying his name wrong, Ethan Posick of the Cleveland Browns. I think he'd be a plug-and-play guy. I would like another veteran on this offensive line. You got a young guy in Evan Neal. You got two young guys in Marcus McKeithen and Joshua Azudu. And you have one vet in Mark Lewinsky, and even Andrew Thomas is somewhat young. I'd like another vet on the offensive line. I think a veteran center could make some sense. But, Rob, if there's a good good center in the draft that's one of the best players on the board when you're on the clock, I would absolutely be all interested in that. Just get better at the center spot. You need a good player there, whether it's free agency or the draft. I'm down for either one. We'll get to more questions coming up in a second, but I do want to make sure all of you guys and ladies are subscribed to the channel. We put out videos every single day on the latest Giants news and rumors. During the season, we go live for every game day. We'll go live pretty much every single time the Giants sign someone. We'll be live for the NFL draft as well as the NFL free agency period. Hit that sub button, sub for Giant Stubs. Help us get to 25,000 subs. Mitch, my man, he said, how would you feel about trading for Isaiah Simmons? I love Isaiah Simmons as a player. I like the athleticism he brings. I like the versatility that he brings. Can line up on the edge, can line up as an inside linebacker, can even line up as a little bit of a slot corner. Did that at Clemson. I am kind of worried about why it hasn't really working out in Arizona for him. I think with them getting a new coach over there, they're probably going to want to keep him and make him more of a focal point of this team. I'm not willing to trade a premium draft pick for him, though, because he's so close to becoming a free agent where he becomes an uncontrolled cost. And I want to continue to have controlled cost players on this team. I love Isaiah Simmons. If I can get him for a third or fourth round pick, I'd do it, but I think Arizona would want a little bit more than that. Mr. Briggs says $50 million for 5 years for Saquon Barkley. Sign me up. I would do 5 years, 50. I don't know if he plays all 5 years, but $10 million per year would be an absolute steal. I don't think Saquon Barkley would even think about that. He would not sign for 5 years, $50 million. I think Barkley's going to want more like 4 years, $50 million, 4 years, $55 million. But yeah, I'd love to get him to that deal. I just don't think that's actually a possibility. We'll get to more questions in a second, but maybe you want to get a Saquon Barkley jersey, or maybe you want to get a Daniel Jones, or maybe an Xavier McKinney. We got all types of Giants throwback jerseys on our website, chatsports.com/Giants throwback. That's chatsports.com/Giants throwback. That link is in the comments and description of the show. The Giants wore these twice this year. I'm sure they'll wear them again coming up in the future. Get yourself a DJ, Xavier McKinney, or Saquon Barkley jersey at this link, which is in the comments and description. Timothy, my man, he says, should the Giants trade up to the Texans for the number 1 pick and select Bryce Young from Alabama if they move on from Daniel Jones? Moving up from 25 to 1 is almost impossible. That would cost you your first round this year, your second round this year, your third round this year, and probably 3 more future number 1s. And I don't even know if that is even enough. I think the Giants get a perfectly good football player at 25. Say they fall in love with a prospect and they're on the clock, or they're getting close to being on the clock. It's pick 18, 19, 20, and they don't want to risk it. Sure, you trade up then. But I'm not willing to give up the draft capital it would cost to move from 25 to 1. I think Bryce Young is going to be a damn good football player. I wish he was a Giant, but I'm not willing, and I don't think the Giants are either, to give up what it would actually cost to move up to pick number 1. Lawson says, really high on Aiyuk. What do you think his price is? I think that the 49ers would trade Brandon Aiyuk for the 25th pick in the NFL draft. I think that would get the job done. The 49ers don't have a first-round pick this year, and they're paying a lot of players on their team a lot of money, like Trent Williams and Bosa, Deebo Samuel, Fred Warner, DeForest Buckner. Like, there's a lot of players on that team that make a lot of money. And sooner or later, you're not going to be able to pay everybody top dollar. Like, you can't have the highest paid receiver or left tackle and nose tackle and middle linebacker. You got Hufanga coming up for a big deal. They have a lot of players to pay. And even Trey Lance is making a lot of money for someone that doesn't really play. I think a pick 25 should get it done. That's what I would offer for Brandon Aiyuk. The ball would just be in the court of San Fran. You would have to also give Aiyuk a good contract extension, which I think he is absolutely worth. I think Aiyuk's a top 15, top 16 receiver in the NFL. Pac-Man Frogs for Life says, what will we get if we trade DJ or Saquon? I don't know what you would get for Daniel Jones. I don't know how many teams are just itching to trade for Daniel Jones. I think you can get a second-round pick for Saquon Barkley. If you tag and trade him, I think a team like the Buffalo Bills, maybe even the Kansas City Chiefs, would pay a second-round pick. Not sure what the price for Daniel Jones would be. I'm not even sure there would be people lining up to trade for Daniel Jones. I think the Colts might be a team that's interested in Daniel Jones. Besides that, who? If you got a team, let me know down in the comment section. Last question coming in from this one. He says, go New York, go. Do you think the Giants should sign Michael Thomas? We need a big outside receiver, and he was once a beast. He was. What did he have? Almost 2,000 yards one year in the National Football League. But the most important word you used right there was. He was once a beast. And I don't know if the Giants want to go back into the Kenny Golladay type of thing of paying a wide receiver whose best football may have been behind him, and especially a guy that's only played in 10 football games in the last 3 seasons. If you're telling me I get the 2019 version of Michael Thomas that's going to catch 150 balls, 1,700 yards, and 9 touchdowns, yeah, I'd do it. Sign me up. But I have nothing and no proof to go off that he could be that guy. Like I said, he's only played in 10 games in the last 3 years, and he's played in 3 games in the last 2 years. He was good, and I believe it was week 1 or week 2 this year. Had 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns in 3 games. I think there's still some juice there. The question is it just worth the squeeze? I don't want to go through another Kenny Golladay or Golden Tate situation. If I can get him for a 1-year deal worth $6 million and there's a lot of incentives, sure. I just don't know if that's what Michael Thomas is going to be looking for. I want to gauge the audience, though, because I thought this was a good question. Should the Giants sign Michael Thomas? Sound off for me down in the comment section. Type S for sign, type P for pass. It all comes from – it all comes down to, the length and the cost. I wouldn't go anything over 1 year. 1 year, $6 million, incentives up to 12. Yeah, I would do it, but I think the Giants would pass, and I probably would pass as well. If I didn't get to your question on today's show, you can DM me over on Twitter at @MarshallGreen_. I'm down to chop it up about the Giants all day, every day. Give me a follow and send me a DM over there at @MarshallGreen_.